Well, that's a good question. What is the message? I have to correct the question and say, what are the messages? Because there really are a series of messages that are in this presentation, and which one gets amplified, which one's front and center, is really what you need and what your audience needs to hear. So when you look at the presentation just at face value, you see two things right off the top. One is that we're leaders. We're situational leaders. Almost all of us have some sort of leadership role, and we have to be able to move that from situation to situation to get positive results. And that's done by taking a look at leadership strategies, whether you're going to be directive or whether you're going to be in consensus or coaching mode or whatever, and what strategy you're going to use. Fill that out with the traits, your personality leadership traits. Some of those traits we kind of know. For instance, maybe it's being decisive or confident as a leader, but at the same time, you need to show some humility and some empathy. So how do we take those 9 traits and how do we kind of form them to give us a style that we really need for that situation that we're in? And then there's leadership actions. There's hundreds of actions leaders take, but there are 4 core actions that we need to perfect so that we can move people along, so that we can hear what they're saying, so we can react and make good decisions. One of those, probably the hardest one, and the one that gets the most pushback, is we need to eliminate blame. And we do that through increased accountability. So that's one of the main messages that's hard to remove. It's always there. The second main one is that we have to have a plan, we have to have a team, and we have to have a positive attitude. And this concept of a positive attitude is really huge. If you are faced with something monumental, let's say someone has a stroke, you have thousands of people that are around you, you have people that are making decisions, there's a lot of negative that's in there, and you need to look at the small pieces and attack those small pieces and address them. You need to be able to have a positive attitude while doing that. And that means you need a plan, you need a team. And the team is the most important, but you need to have a plan to even get the team. What are you going to do and how are you going to pull those people in? You can't move that mountain with one shovelful. You need to figure out what those small pieces are, who can help you with those small pieces, and then keep positive about the fact, hey, I just moved that small piece. Another big concept in here is professional skills, and using our professional skills in our personal life, at home or wherever, and being able to not leave them at the door. Quite a few of us leave them at the door, or we bring them home in a militaristic standpoint and just try to run our families like businesses, and that doesn't work. So how do you then take those professional skills and fold them into your personal life? So it could be that your leadership, most of us are parents, and so we have to be good leaders. Thank goodness for our kids. We have to have persuasive skills and influential skills. And in fact, those go both directions. Maybe I have a persuasive skill at home that I need to use at work. We need to have things like project management skills, and just objectively figuring out what the tasks are that need to be done and get them done and make sure they're done. So that objectivity removes some of the emotion to make things easier. Another subtle message in here, which kind of is through the entire presentation, is vulnerability. As leaders, we need to be vulnerable. That's how we build trust. And if we don't build trust, then we're really not going to be great leaders. By telling personal stories that are so emotional, so personal, people look at that and they say, wow, you really made yourself vulnerable up there. And that's true. I do make myself very vulnerable, and some of the parts are very hard to say. But it's the ones that say, I felt uneasy because you were telling stories about your personal life, and that doesn't make me feel good. those are the people that I really am focused in on, because they're the ones that have to learn to be vulnerable. They have to think about what was done in the presentation around vulnerability and how they need to take that into their lives so they can make themselves vulnerable, and therefore they can be better leaders. And when I've touched one of them, I think I've really won. Then I can actually, check off a box that I've changed someone's life, and it was really good.
I'm going to talk about leadership. I'm going to talk about 3 types of leadership, 3 areas that are extremely important. I'm going to talk about leadership strategies, leadership traits, and 4 leadership actions. Now, there's hundreds of actions, thousands of actions a leader takes, but there's 4 core ones that we need to talk about. You're being, what's in the lower corner down here, you're being very directive. Are you a leader? Does everyone say yes? Of course you're a leader. You're leading the situation. Directive, though, is what we quite often think of as what managers do. Right? A doctor looks at me or looks at Tammy and says, "Hello, Mrs. Williams, we talked about this. You have this pinched nerve. This sling will take the pain off, and then you can leave and you'll be fine later today." I bristle in the corner, and I say, "Excuse me, have you looked at the symptoms? Who are you?" "I'm just the husband, that's all. I'm nobody important." I said, "Let's go through what these symptoms actually are." She has left shoulder pain, she's short of breath, she's tired, profuse sweating, and nausea. "Mr. Williams, I know what those symptoms mean, but you left out the fact that her hand isn't working. And all of those symptoms could be caused by a pinched nerve in her neck." Now, none of you have ever seen me mad or heard the language I use when I'm mad. But I said something quite similar to, with a few flowery things put in there, "Give her some nitroglycerin." And the doctor looked at me and said, "You can't tell me what to do." And what do you do in ER? How many of you have been to ER? What do you do in ER? Wait. That's what you do in ER. You wait. You know the word patient, okay? That's the person in the bed. With a T, okay? It's derived from the word patience with a C. Patience is to endure pain and wait. I really feel the healthcare industry would be much better off if they changed the word from patient to customer, because no one can say, "I want my customer to endure pain and wait." It drives the point home. Your dad does one thing pretty well. I can fix a failing project pretty well. And we've got a failing project here, and it is not going to fail, not on my watch. I need a team. I need a plan, because we got to keep a positive outlook. We have just a couple of things that we got to take care of. "Will you be on my team?" Of course they said yes. There's this huge division between business and the IT, more than normal. The business won't even talk to IT. They hate IT. So she put together a plan to go talk to the business, and she spent that next week talking to the business. So much that the director of IT came to her at the end of that week and said, "So who do you work for? Do you work for IT or do you work for the business?" She had presence of mind to say, "I work for the project," because she was building a team. She knew she had some real big problems. No support from IT leadership. She figured out how to get around that, and she would use the business to come down on top of IT. She just had a few problems she had to take care of. Because as far as I'm concerned, you just saved your wife's life. We would have never gone that way. We would have never thought of that. Thank you. I was wrong. Dr. Lucius took a very humble step at that point. But now I had to change. I had to change because I was being, up to this point, a pretty directive, arrogant, pompous jerk. I had to change my leadership style because I was now building a team of real professionals. A team who has enough years in education to actually dwarf how many years old I was at that point. Probably not now, but at least at that point. I had to start changing my leadership traits. There are 9 basic leadership traits, generally accepted leadership traits. Some people say there's 8, some people say there's 10. I like 9. Sounds like a good number. 2 of these leadership traits, though, you have to have. 7 you can work on. Those 2 you have to have are ethics and accountability. And I want to talk about the 4 core actions that we have to take. And those 4 core actions are to eliminate blame, conduct dialogue and discussion, listen, and sell your vision. When you pull all these things together as leaders, you end up with what's called leadership with soul.